All right. Hello, and welcome back to the Thought Cloud podcast. Our goal of this conversation is to uncover a hidden gem that can help others along their academic journey. Our guest today is Ritika Shamdasani. Ritika is an undergraduate at North Carolina State University, where she is studying fashion textile management with a concentration in fashion development and product management. Ritika is the co-founder of Sani Designs, which is an Indian and South Asian inspired fashion company. Sani has been featured in storefronts in New York City. It is the first South Asian fashion brand on Rent the Runway, and they have over 150,000 followers on TikTok. They're absolutely killing it. It has been so cool to watch Ritika's journey with her sister. Another fun fact about Ritika is that she is in a campaign with Karlie Kloss for her Adidas line. So, Ritika, you have so much to share with us. I'm super excited to have you on this podcast. And, I have not spoken with anyone yet who's got this fashion background like you do. And so I'm super excited to dig in and hear about what got you interested. How did this whole journey unfold and where you are going with it? So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I have to start off by actually correcting you because I know our website URL is Sani Designs, but we just go by Sani, and it's been actually the biggest headache for me because I've been trying to buy Sani.co for the longest time, but it is like $3,000.
Oh my gosh.
So I haven't purchased it yet, but I know it gets confusing for a lot of people because it's like, are they Sani Designs or are they Sani? But we're trying to make it to where we're just Sani. But yeah,
Sani, everybody.
let's tell the story of Sani and me. So like I mentioned, I'm currently at North Carolina State University studying fashion, but that was not a path I thought I would ever end up in. And I never thought I would also be running a fashion brand. So younger Ritika was actually really into coding, and she attended, I'm talking in like third person now. So I attended Girls Who Code when I was in high school, and I really, really loved it. And then I ended up interning at Amazon when I was also in high school.
Wow. What are your internships for high schoolers?
They don't normally. So I actually got that internship through a cold LinkedIn message.
No way.
Yeah, and it was a great internship. I learned so much. So that continued down the computer science path. And then I also was at Code with Classy, and that was another like continued down the computer science path. So then I entered at State actually being a computer science major. But then around the same time, I started Sani with my sister. And Sani is an apparel brand inspired by South Asian culture, but we really started solving a personal problem, right? And it was centered around making shopping for South Asian weddings easier, because 82% of South Asian Americans wait to go abroad to shop for their cultural clothing, but they spend on average $315 a year on this kind of attire. So we were like, there's something here, let's tinker around with it. We'll see what happens. It was very much a side project. It went pretty well. We started growing, and we actually sold out of our first collection, and we realized that there was like something to tap into that we had always experienced, but no one had really done it yet. So that mission led us to launch on Rent the Runway as their first South Asian fashion brand. That partnership was also gotten through a cold email. And when that partnership released, we sold out of booking availability within 48 hours.
Wow.
It was great, right? It was like, that's the point where your business is supposed to, you know how you say you have those moments and it's like, from here on up, it's going to be like uphill. That's what we thought. But then a couple weeks later, the pandemic hit, and we were a brand that was only made for South Asian weddings, and those weren't happening anymore. So our Shopify went down to zero. And I'm not kidding. I swear we had like a negative month in 2020, which I don't even know how that happens, but we did. I've looked at like the QuickBooks for it. So we were a little confused on what to do, but what was also happening around that time was TikTok. And so we thought TikTok's going to be a great brand awareness tool. Let's just get on the platform and see what happens. So we got on TikTok, And our 6th or 7th video went pretty viral, like to the tune of, I think, 3 million views. And what we found on there was a different side of the brand that we had never explored. So there was this whole problem context related to formal wear, but there was also a community that we were forming that was really interested in South Asian culture, right? This was also the time of shows like Never Have I Ever, Indian matchmaking, like the culture
Right.
was all around us. But when it came to fashion, there really wasn't a brand inviting others in a way that was cultural appreciation. Everyone always talked about cultural appropriation, but everyone always wanted to celebrate like with South Asian culture involved with it. I mean, the amount of times I've heard I want to go to an Indian wedding, I swear is like 10,000 times. So we were like, why isn't there a way we can bring this to people in a way that is true to our culture, but also invites them in? So we released loungewear at the end of 2020, and our loungewear was inspired by a Sangeet, which is a wedding event in an Indian wedding. And we've sold out of every single batch of that loungewear since now, when we're finally restocked with it all. And what that made us realize, and this community on TikTok really made us realize, is that we want to be a brand that's for all, and it celebrates South Asian culture, right? Bringing people into the culture. So that's kind of where we started, where we're going, and like a snippet, I guess, of the Sani journey.
When sorry, I thought you were continuing on there
Oh,
for a
no,
second.
no. I was like, let me stop
No,
rambling.
that's wonderful. That is such great context. Seriously great context. And I think I saw your video where you and your sister were like first designing these pieces for the wedding that you were going to, right? And I don't know exactly if you were, there were other people that you were designing for, just you two, but how did that feel for you? Obviously being in this computer science degree and then finding something that you can, wow, take to a new level. I mean, was that a scary
Yeah.
jump for you to make? Because now you're really fashion focused with your degree path.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, right? I am a like first gen daughter of immigrants. So like computer science is the path that my parents would love me to take, but
Uh-huh.
they're also great. They're not pressuring me to take it. They didn't like say anything like that, but there is a certain level of like job security in something like that versus something like fashion. But I think what I just really fell in love with was the business. And I love what I do on a day-to-day basis. I like love what we're building. And what ended up happening was like computer science wasn't a love in the same way. I would say it was a passion,
Mhm.
but I like wanted to like go down a path where um like what I was studying would directly apply to what I wanted to do after college.
Right.
And so that's how fashion came about, and that's why I'm still in it.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And so, in terms of getting this going, I know that now you said that you guys had that rough time during COVID. You had to pivot a little bit. Now you're looking to sort of open the doors to people in a welcoming way to get them involved in this culture. And it's more of maybe I don't know if it's the formal versus the informal. Is that the right way to put it? Sort of
Yeah, so it's like we have formal wear and then casual wear.
formal wear and casual wear. How have those challenges been from formal, where you probably had a pretty set idea, to informal, where you're kind of experimenting? Like, how did that feel, and what were the sort of hiccups that you ran into along that transition?
Yeah, so designing for those two categories are entirely different. And when we were releasing casual wear, we were also designing 100% remotely for the first time because it was during the pandemic. So a big thing was just relearning everything that you thought you knew about how to create the product that you are like known for, and throwing it out the window. And then diving headfirst into like almost like a new side of the business that you like have never explored before. So that was really difficult, I would say, like especially during the pandemic, right? When like also your suppliers are now dealing with a remote designing process, which is new to them too for the first time. But I think what made that entire process a little easier was that everyone was dealing with it. So everyone is trying to figure out the best way to just, everyone was trying to do it. So in that time, just because we hadn't done casual before, it was a little easier because we were relearning as other people were also relearning.
Gotcha.
So I would say like, just like even the designing process between the two categories was something that was like a big learning curve to overcome.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. And I mean, I even want to touch onto the cold start problem just to kind of shed light on getting going into something that you hadn't had experience in before, which
Mm.
is this field of fashion. You hadn't, right? This was like your first entry into it.
Oh yeah. Like my experience with fashion was just like liking to shop.
Well, so then how did you piece together, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to have these designs, we need to send to these people. I mean, what was that process like in terms of learning the whole, end to end process of getting ready clothes for someone else to buy?
Yeah. So two things. Number one, I think being naive was actually a really big asset for us. And number two, the way we figured out all those steps that we're talking about is by talking to other people.
Gotcha.
So on the naive side of things, we didn't know what to do, how to do. If you asked me what a tech pack was when we first started, I would be like, I have no idea what that is. So
I have
we
no idea what that is.
yeah, it's not common, but in the fashion industry, it is common. Um, but so we kind of just hodgepodged a little bit, right? Like our first design for like our first collection was a PowerPoint in which it was like, I like this fabric, this cut, I like the flow of this, I like this kind of embroidery, and we just stuck it all on one page and then like tried to combine it all. So it was almost like learn as you go and ask for help along the way from people who can help you. And like our first manufacturer was my grandmother's church friend's son.
Wow. Wow.
So
What a
it was
connection.
like, I know it was like literally like me talking to my grandma and her like just like chatting it up in church then. And that's how we figured out like who would produce our first stuff. So I think with the combination of those twos, it makes the steps that you don't know what to do for a little easier.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. I love how you said that. Having, that naive approach almost is to your advantage in the sense
Yeah.
that it doesn't maybe feel as like stressful to ask or like someone's testing you or holding you to that standard. It's like, no, I'm learning constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And you work with your sister. Your sister is your co-founder. So
Mhm.
talk to us about this a little bit. How do you like that? I think if I was a co-founder with my brother, I might have an issue there. Um, but anyways, how does that play for you, like working with your sister?
Yeah. So it is, there's a lot of highs and low, but there's also a lot of highs and low in business whatsoever. So my sister is great. And I think we make really, really great business partners because we work with each other, I think, in a way that no one else has. Like, I don't have that with like just a random person because we know each other so well, right? And it took a while to really figure out how to work with each other. But once we figured it out, we had like a synergy like no other. And so I think it's been really great to actually be in this business with my sister because it's also pulled on to this whole community that's like invested in us as sisters building a
Yeah.
brand together. And I think that's been really, really valuable. So it's, if you're thinking about going into business with a sibling, I'm going to tell you it's going to be hard, but that's no matter the business, there's going to be a lot of things too that you're like, this is so much easier because you're my sibling.
Right. I love that. I love that. And throughout this whole process, what would you say that you are most grateful for? What are some of the things that you are most grateful in the sense of learning or having these opportunities? What to you has stood out the most?
I think other people's kindness has stood out a lot because um we've had a lot of people who have gone out of their way to like do things for us in a way that they didn't have to, like they didn't have to introduce us to X, Y, and Z, but they wanted to introduce us to the X, Y, and Z. And even with like my parents, right? My dad didn't have to take 2 hours explaining what duties are and how we need to like make sure like it's fulfilled when our packages are coming from across. But he did that. And I think like really holding on to like how generous people can be with their time and their advice and their network is something that I try and do, because then I want to be able to reciprocate that for like whoever may ask me to do that in the future.
Definitely, definitely. I love that. I think that's encouraging. And, for anyone out there that is looking to start something, take that to heart because,
Yeah.
you give what you receive. And that's just awesome that you've been able to experience that. Well, Ritika, we're going to now go into our rapid fire round where I'm just going to shoot a couple questions at you. Nothing
Okay.
crazy, just about yourself. And whatever comes to mind, go ahead and answer. So, what would
Okay.
you say your favorite book is?
Anything by Nicholas Sparks.
Anything by Nicholas Sparks? I've not read a book by Nicholas Sparks.
Okay, I actually don't like reading, so that's why.
Okay, she doesn't like reading. We got it. Okay, who is your most influential role model?
Ooh. Alive or dead?
Either
I
or.
know this is supposed to be rapid fire, and here I am like taking 10 years. Emma Grady.
Emma Greedy. Is she alive or dead?
She's alive.
Okay, I'll have
She's
to look.
someone who I actually just want to like mentor Sani too. So
Very
putting
cool.
it out into the world.
Manifest it. I love it. Let's do it. Okay, next question. Who is your favorite teacher and what grade was that?
My favorite teacher was Miss Dunn, and she was actually my piano teacher. So not a grade. I played piano for about 10 to 11 years, and she made me like really appreciate music.
Next question. What is the most stressful part about being a student day in and day out? A student founder day in and day out?
Time management.
Time management. Definitely. How do you cope with that?
Staying organized
Staying organized.
and
Okay.
prioritizing.
And prioritizing. Okay, next question. What is your biggest hope to accomplish during your time on Earth?
During my time on Earth,
Yes, during your time on Earth.
I was hoping it was going to be like during the next year. Dang, how is this a rapid fire question? This is a deep question. Okay, well, okay. One of my goals is to create things that make people feel happy.
I love that. That's wonderful. You nailed it. I love that. Okay, well, what would you say your top piece of advice is for those who are early in the process of discovering their passions, whether that's studying something or starting a business in some direction? What would you give them as a top piece of advice?
Try it and take that first step to whatever you think you're interested in and do it today, because you're going to regret never taking a stab at something that you've always wanted to.
Definitely. That's such great advice. Well, Ritika, you are so full of great advice. It has been wonderful to have you on as a guest, and I'm super excited we got the chance to catch up a little bit. Where can people follow the work you are doing and learn more about you?
Yeah. So you can follow Sani, Sani, on Instagram or on TikTok. And on TikTok, we're Sani Sisters. Our website is www.sanidesigns.com. Hopefully, we'll get that changed soon. And then, personally, if you want to follow along, my Instagram is Ritika Sham, RitikASham.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so awesome, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.